Benjamin. I'm head of our game lab at the Polish-Japanese Academy of Information Technology. In this role, I teach and coordinate projects in game design and development with a focus on fostering collaborations between the industry and our students. Additionally, I freelance as a testing associate for video game localizations, working with companies like THQ Nordic and Paradox Interactive. Also currently in the process of returning to game development myself. Yaroslav is currently engaged in research and lecturing at various universities, including University of Gdańsk and Tallinn University, currently working on a project on the history of Ukrainian video games, and he has extensive experience in the East European games industry, where he primarily advised and consulted on HR, production, and especially legal matters. Our common interest lies in video game production, and was a great surprise to see Jans Felch today as a keynote speaker, a leading researcher in the emerging field of game production studies. We highly recommend checking out his latest work. And yeah, and our question for this project was, how is AI going to affect video game production, obviously? Today's presentation is divided into the following parts, and I'll first give you an overview on the purpose of our research. Then we'll explore some AI types and their applications in the industry, while our primary focus is on job transformation. We also included aspects of revenue growth, since it's this year's Frog theme, money and games. Next, we'll delve into the concept of job transformation and displacement, and we'll then present significant insights from a literature review we conducted and contrast those findings with our most ambitious part of the research, which were expert interviews with industry professionals. We also intended to include a case study comparing Unity, the introduction of Unity in 2005 with the current circumstances, but I had to cut that out because of time. However, it's going to be in the final research paper, so it's going to be there. And yeah, conclusion at the end. So the purpose of this paper, we aim to analyze how AI is currently used in game production, given the chaotic landscape and the absence of clear legislation. The gaming industry is currently in a kind of Wild West gold rush when it comes to AI adoption, and we believe that shedding some light on this situation, some clarity, could benefit everyone. However, I want to emphasize that this isn't a doomsday prophecy about AI bankrupting us all. Our approach is sober and constructive, with the goal of providing recommendations for the game development and research community based on our preliminary findings. So, yeah, let's identify two types of AI that we've encountered during our research. While computer scientists might not categorize them strictly as AI, they are commonly referred to as in conventional terms, so we will be referring here as such. So first we have LLMs, which stands for language learning models. These include systems like ChatGPT or Bard. These models might appear as we're on the brink of a Skynet scenario, but they are in essence what Noam Chomsky already observed, a glorified autofill. These systems make quite brilliant guesses based on trillions of data points to predict what we expect to hear when we articulate particular instructions or questions. ChatGPT is also free to test. So if you haven't tried it yet, I highly encourage you to do so, even if you're not into AI and language learning models. The second type is text-to-image models. That's going to concern us for today, exemplified by tools like DALL-E or Midjourney. Unlike text generation based on input, these generative AI models produce images based on textual prompts. For example, the image on the right, there you can see I gave in a prompt to AI Tubo, which is another text-to-image app, where I gave the instruction researcher explaining different AI types that are being used in the video game industry at a conference in Vienna. The researcher is streamed in the conference room. Everything is colorful and everyone is having fun. Well, of course, these models require more detailed instructions and iterations, but I still would say, like, for a first try, that's a pretty good representation of this kind of instruction. So while, of course, this isn't a workshop on how to use these technologies, just remember for now that there are these two different kinds of AI software that either create text or visuals based on the instructions that users can give. These two tools, as our research has shown, are currently in use or under development in companies themselves to create their like internal kind of language learning model or image to text model. However, in the industry, they are still mostly used on individual basis. Due to legal reasons, companies do not openly allow their employees to use these tools, since they would soak in confidential data that bigger companies have, and all companies registered have no interest in leaking. So let's talk about AI in the industry and what kind of fields they are used. I put here R2D2 as a quite well representation of how AI is thought of as in the industry, basically as an assistant, as a tool. C3PO would have been also a good representation as a protocol droid. So ideation is a field that's much used in connection with AI. So through our interviews and other articles, but also our own work, we can confirm that brainstorming ideas with language learning models or text-to-image models is highly effective. This practice is already underway on individual basis in companies, and asking for ChatGPT's input on your idea and how you can improve it or what other aspects you should consider is quite a powerful process that I urge everyone to just try out. Then we have asset and content creation. These AI tools are being used to create, for example, in-game dialogues with the case of Ubisoft's Ghostwriter in recent Assassin's Creed installments. The quality of it, well, that's something that you have to decide for yourself, but this is all in development currently. They're also employed in generating concept art. There has been a recent case where Blizzard concept artists created concept artists for latest World of Warcraft installments. And Unity is also planning to implement Muse. I don't think they have done that already, but it is basically ChatGPT, but that's going to be integrated in Unity as a chatbot to aid coders in generating code. Then we have project management and documentation. So AI can transcript from records and produce concise protocols. Additionally, it is becoming proficient at writing professional and friendly emails. And if you have noticed a change in the tone of your colleagues' emails, they might be probably using ChatGPT to write those. Then we have quality assurance, so a field that I'm also working in, and I'm aware that a couple of companies at the moment are working on tools on fully automating functional testing. This involves creating algorithms that enable AI to play a game in every possible way to detect all potential bugs. Then we have translation and localization, basically. So games are something that I have also noticed increasingly, not even in some cases, not even translated by translators at first, but first fully machine translated and then by proofreaders edited. So in that way, already translators are in some processes omitted. And then at last, we have data analysis, something also mentioned in the keynote today. So AI has the ability to process vast amounts of data and extract precise insight. This has been employed already for years in the mobile game and live operations sector. And yeah, these are some common use cases. There are, of course, way more ways to use AI and other kind of machine learning models in working processes, but these are the ones that we have mostly identified and we will revisit for the expert interviews. So just a note on increased revenue. So we said that in the title, it indicates that how to increase also revenue with AI. So we thought, of course, we had to add some information on that. And I'll explain that with an anecdote because I'm not an economist. But when I finished high school almost 10 years ago, I enrolled in an economics degree for exactly 3 semesters, and then I quit in disillusion. However, one concept from those early lectures kind of stuck with me, which is the optimization principle. It's a fundamental principle in economics that involves achieving the maximum outcome within a set of constraints, essentially creating the most significant result with the least amount of resources, or as the saying goes, work smart, not hard. And this principle is relevant because it can be applied to the question of why do you need to pay a publisher if you can learn basic marketing tools for free to self-publish? Or on a more problematic note, it leads to questions such as why would you need to hire multiple people for a project if one person can handle the job with AI tools? However, this principle must always go hand in hand with policies in place and ethical considerations. The principle can be kind of visualized with this image. Why choose path A when path B is more efficient and legal? Why waste time and energy when you can save both by taking a different route? In the context of our discussion, revenue increase is contingent on the work and time saved through the use of AI. It's crucial to remember that the industry is driven by a capitalist market, if we want or not, where studios strive to find the most efficient ways to cut costs, leading to the adoption of tools like AI eventually. And this, in turn, of course, results also in job transformation, or in the worst case, of course, for individuals in job displacement. The implementation of new technologies in working processes needs a change in how we work, or causes a change in how we work, what we work on, how much time we spend on it, and how enterprises structure their teams and pipelines. Transformation and displacement occur primarily through automation, which entails replacing routine and repetitive tasks. There's no need for someone to create concept art from scratch if you can generate a draft with AI. There is no need to hire multiple writers to create dialogues for an RPG when they can be generated. Of course, here I'm exaggerating provocatively the process, but I hope you just, you get the idea. And transformation and displacement require a redefinition of the skills needed for the job. For example, while a game designer traditionally brainstormed ideas through reading, playing games, and collaborating with colleagues, AI can significantly streamline this process by giving more data and more feedback on demand that designers need to iterate then their ideas. Workplace culture also undergoes a change, with new tools altering the way we work together. Career mobility is then hence affected, which can decrease if individuals fail to adapt to these changes, or increase, of course, if people adapt to these changes. These changes not only impact individual employment, but on a wider scale lead to broader consequences, as demonstrated by the events like the strikes and protests of the writers' guilds in the US, and the formation of Poland's first game industry labor union just a week ago. So at the end of this chain of transformations, there lies the policies, but it's important to keep in mind that the policies and legislations, they come at the end. So it's always very important for individuals to be aware and to adapt already beforehand, and not just wait for legislations to happen and save us all. Oh, not the wrong direction here. So we were able, in regards to these aspects, to identify some exemplary cases, mostly by crunching news articles, since academic articles are rather scarce at the moment in that field. And we selected a couple of headlines that are representative for what a lot of companies and game developers, but also platforms, are going through at the moment. A very exemplary case is Ubisoft's Ghost Rider, so writing NPC dialogues with an AI tool that has been also widely criticized by writers themselves, also already causing job displacement. World of Warcraft concept art, so using AI tools to prompt concept art, has been also much criticized by artists, but is already common practice even by freelancing artists in the industry. Then we have chatbots like in Xbox Live. So using chatbots to identify toxic behavior and remove hate speech has been very successful, and also used in, for example, by Riot in League of Legends and other online games. Then we had just recently a case uncovered where CD Projekt apparently used an AI-generated voice over for a deceased actor who voice acted for the original installment of Cyberpunk, and in Phantom Liberty there is an AI-generated voice. But however, that was done with the approval of the actor's family. And another aspect that we identified, not limited to the games industry, but to HR and the industry in general, is that apparently ChatGPT helps us to communicate more effectively in email chains. Can tell you from my end, so we are living in Warsaw. It's a very international community, but no one is a native speaker. So AI tools can help us to more clearly send out communications and collaborate, and have also a more friendly tone when talking to each other. However, what has been also identified in all of these articles is a massive community backlash. This is a very sensitive subject, and developers must be transparent and very cautious in explaining how they employ AI to avoid concerns among players about being either misled or even ripped off. So these are like aspects that are currently present in the discourse, in the literature, and that needs to be considered and are worth exploring further. You can also see the literature via scanning the QR code if you're interested. We uploaded a whiteboard where you have also summaries of these articles. All right, bring us to my favorite part of our research, namely the expert interviews. Now, Yaroslav and I work around the industry, so we work with studios, academies, and other institutions in either supporting, facilitating, or advisory roles, but not as full-time developers or designers, who are, after all, the ones most affected by these changes. So we couldn't do this. We didn't want to do this research without not asking what they think about these developments. And as you might assume, the whole topic is at the moment quite hush-hush. So even for us, it was quite difficult to convince our colleagues to participate. We had even some persons first confirming, but after talking with their executives or managers, they just bailed on the survey, even though the whole survey is anonymous. Mostly also from AAA studios, we had like a high dropout rate of people willing to collaborate. However, our initial goal was to interview 3 professionals until this talk and 10 for the final paper. We have finalized 4 interviews, which is already gave us great insight already. And we categorized the interviews into the following sections: AI and jobs in the games industry, AI and revenue, AI and game production, and final thoughts. You can have a look at the survey yourself. And if you want to participate, please reach out first to me so that I can verify that you're working in the industry. But however, you can also, if you're not working and you're just interested to share your opinion, please do so by accessing the survey through the link. With that, to the interviews, and I will present now only short insights to key questions due to time constraints, but we'll have like a very in-depth analysis about these interviews in the paper. So with our first expert, we had a producer and co-owner with at least 6 years of experience in the industry at a smaller company. And when asked about job displacement, they believe it will impact areas like writing, art, and design, especially concept art. Regarding increased revenue, they mention lower production costs due to a smaller payroll, so less people employed, and shorter production cycles. The company is already using AI for concept art in specific areas. Then we have expert B, a tech designer with at least 6 years of industry experience working at a smaller company. They foresee job displacement, particularly in the context of AI replacing facial animators and voice deepfake technology, reducing voice actor costs. AI models are already in the use at their company, reducing the number of animators and using deepfakes to generate voiceovers for in-game testing before recording. Important to point out, this is not going to end up in the final product, and something that I and my QA role have seen already increasingly. Studios using AI-generated voice as placeholders in development before then actually going on to record with real voice actors, since this is also quite pricey. With expert C, we have a game designer with around 3 to 5 years of industry experience who works for a large company. They anticipate job displacement in areas like copywriting and translation. In terms of increased revenue, they emphasize the time-saving aspect, mentioning potential legal complexities that could also absorb some of the cost savings. Very, very interesting point that was elaborated. And their company is not using AI at the moment. Expert D, this game designer also has 3 to 5 years of industry experience working at a large company. They believe that job displacement will affect concept art disciplines and analytics. AI's role in generating descriptions for items is also highlighted, especially when working on crossovers with other franchises, where there isn't much time to get acquainted with the source material. What that means, to just be clear, for example, Fortnite had collaborations with external brands like Supreme or Marvel. And of course, people working on the game's design or as UI designers or designers in general do not have the time to get acquainted with the fandom of these brands. So AI can be there a help, as stated here by expert D. In the final section of our interviews, our interviewees provided some personal insights that I thought are useful to share literally, at least some snippets of it. So I'm just going to read them quote by quote. Read more about it and its legal aspects. Train other skills. Narrow specialization may become a dead end. Treat AI same as a game engine, as a tool to be more effective. A tool can't do things by itself. And something that goes very much in line with how I think about all of this. It's terrifying as all change is, yet inevitable. From our expert interviews, we can draw several conclusions. As optimization for production pipelines being used with AI is more prevalent among smaller studios and individual professionals within the industry, this is not just based on the small sample size, so of 4 people claiming that, but in the interviews themselves, our participants have referred to their knowledge about how it's used in other companies that they know and other colleagues in different studios. And also that goes very much in line what we heard outside of the expert interviews from colleagues. So at the moment, like smaller studios are more efficient, probably also because of the slicker teams to adopt AI in their workflow. It is also generally observed that AAA studios tend to avoid discussing the topic, obviously by a lot of rejections that we receive, but also as you know, it goes in line with what we've seen in the literature. And there is a consensus among experts that job displacement as well as job transformation is an imminent reality that's going to happen. The fields of art and writing are expected to be to bear the most significant impact, and efficiency gains will be the result in cost reductions. This is what all of the experts have outlined quite in detail in these interviews. And despite varying perspectives, all experts share kind of mixed feelings about about AI's role in the industry at the moment. We read a lot of concern about legislation, but also kind of knowing that legislation at this point is just not properly under the way or will take so much time to happen in regards to the development of AI. However, they acknowledge that these changes by AI can also wield positive benefits, and in any case are necessary for all professionals in the industry to accept and in one way or another adapt to remain competitive as a worker or as a studio in the industry. The case study with Unity will skip due to time constraints. However, please feel free to ask me during the QA about it, and it will be included in the final paper. In summary, based on our experiences working with AI, so Jaroslav and myself, we're working with AI in different fields, and the insights from our literature review, and most importantly, the feedback from the industry experts, we conclude the following, at least at this stage of this research. We all need to learn how to work effectively with AI as a co-pilot. We don't see that there's any way around it to stay competitive. And we highly recommend to see this as a chance and not to think of AI replacing, but thinking of AI as an R2D2 assistant co-pilot, helping you to just be more efficient and also explore new ways of designing and developing games. AI will cut headcounts in AAA studios. That's something that we see already, not because of AI. So the current layoffs are not happening because of AI. So the thousands of layoffs we've seen over the last month. But what we have heard and what we also strongly believe is that they happen also in anticipation of AI. So with all of these headcount reductions, we already see that there is an anticipation that the teams will be anyway slicker within the next years. However, these tools will also empower smaller studios to compete more effectively in the market, allowing smaller studios easier to bridge the gap to the AA market, which might be a huge opportunity for smaller development studios. writers and artists should and need to diversify their skills to adapt to these changes brought by AI. What we mean by that is not just the use of AI, but also a stronger leaning towards getting acquired with technical expertise. So writers that are not familiar with using game engines should definitely learn on how to create and implement their texts in an in-game project, so in the game engine itself, as also artists are kind of urged to also pursue a stronger role, a stronger trajectory towards the technical art role that will also help them to not be that susceptible to these layoffs that are happening. The full scale of adoption of AI and AAA studios is to be anticipated. So we don't have enough data at this point. We know that many AAA studios are developing their own systems because of these legal concerns that I mentioned earlier. However, we have no proper transparency to make any informed guesses on what that means in the long run. And effective communication about AI usage in games is crucial, especially when addressing players, since it can lead to huge community backlash. So if you're considering to work with AI, be very transparent with your community and be very careful about how you communicate that. We have deliberately left the discussion void of ethics and legal aspects, and that for the reason to consider a separate paper in discussing that, as these topics just need more detailed exploration. However, we wanted to dedicate this talk to a more pragmatic approach to the technology itself, and not wanted to paralyze it at this point by discussing that things should go differently, but just provide now an account about how things are and how we expect them to be for the next time. We, for ourselves, are optimistic in regards to the changes. So yes, they will lead to job displacement, and they will lead to professionals having to adapt to these changes. And this is why it's important to talk about the topic in a more constructive way, with less paranoia and less fear spreading about that. We do not recommend to wait until legislation will try to handle the situation, but to actively get involved in the discourse and apply a readiness to integrate a few new tweaks into your workflow and skill set. However, we do acknowledge that transparency with a capital T in all steps of integrating AI into new video game production cycles must be key to developers, studios, researchers, and most importantly, players. So thank you very much for your attention. Feel free to reach out to us via mail or LinkedIn. You can access the sources via the QR code provided. And thank you very much.